It was during this time of terror that Musa AS was born. His mother was filled with fear, but Allah inspired her. Musa grew up strong and wise, well educated under Pharaoh's guardianship. However, he never forgot his true identity as a member of Bani Israel. One day, while walking in the city, he saw an Egyptian taskmaster brutally beating an Israelite slave. Overcome with rage at the injustice, Musa intervened and struck the Egyptian. They explained, "We cannot water our flock until the shepherds leave, and our father is an old man." Seeing their struggle, Musa stepped forward and watered their flock for them. After helping them, he retreated under the shade of a tree and prayed humbly to Allah. Hazrat Musa, Asegwas, also known as Prophet Moses in English, was born during a time of great oppression in ancient Egypt. The land was ruled by Pharaoh, a ruthless and tyrannical king. He enslaved the children of Israel, Bani Israel, and subjected them to the harshest punishments. The Israelites were made to work as laborers, forced into servitude under extreme cruelty. However, one day, Pharaoh's advisors warned him of a prophecy. A child from Bani Israel would rise up and destroy his kingdom. Fearing the loss of his power, Pharaoh issued a horrifying decree. Every newborn male child of the Israelites must be killed immediately. This brutal policy was carried out by his soldiers, who mercilessly searched homes and murdered innocent babies. It was during this time of terror that Musa was born. His mother, Jochebed, was filled with fear, but Allah inspired her. "Suckle him, and when you fear for him, cast him into the river and do not fear nor grieve. Indeed, we will return him to you and make him one of our messengers." With unwavering faith in Allah, she placed her newborn son in a basket and set it afloat on the river Nile. The river carried the fragile basket downstream until it reached the palace of Pharaoh. By the will of Allah, the basket floated right into the hands of Asiya, the wife of Pharaoh. Asiya was a righteous woman, unlike her cruel husband. The moment she saw the beautiful infant inside, her heart was filled with love and compassion. She pleaded with Pharaoh, "He will be a comfort to me and to you. Do not kill him. Perhaps he may benefit us, or we may adopt him as a son." Pharaoh, despite his initial reluctance, agreed to spare the child's life. Musa was now raised as a prince in the palace of his greatest enemy. But there was one problem. Musa refused to drink milk from any wet nurse. His mother, who had been watching from a distance, sent his sister Maryam to suggest a woman who could nurse him. By Allah's decree, Musa's own mother was brought to the palace, and she was reunited with her son, now under the protection of Pharaoh himself. Thus, we returned him to his mother so that her heart would be comforted and she would not grieve, and so that she would know that the promise of Allah is true. Musa grew up strong and wise, well educated under Pharaoh's guardianship. However, he never forgot his true identity as a member of Bani Israel. One day, while walking in the city, he saw an Egyptian taskmaster brutally beating an Israelite slave. Overcome with rage at the injustice, Musa intervened and struck the Egyptian, but the blow was fatal. The man collapsed and died instantly. Musa horrified by what had happened, repented to Allah. This is from the work of Shaitan. Indeed, he is a clear misleading enemy. The next day, the same Israelite was involved in another fight. When Musa tried to stop him, the man shouted, "Oh Musa, do you intend to kill me as you killed the man yesterday?" Word quickly spread, and Pharaoh's court issued an order to kill Musa. But before they could act, a man rushed to warn him. "O Musa, the chiefs are planning to kill you, so flee at once. Indeed, I am a sincere advisor to you." Surah Al-Qasas 28:20. Musa fled from Egypt, alone and afraid, seeking safety in the distant land of Madian. After days of exhausting travel through the desert, Musa, A.S., reached the land of Madian. He was weak, starving, and had no shelter. As he entered the city, he saw a group of shepherds watering their flocks. Nearby, 2 young women stood waiting, unable to approach the well because the men refused to make way for them. Musa approached them and asked, "What is the matter?" Surah Al-Qasas 28:23. They explained, "We cannot water our flock until the shepherds leave, and our father is an old man." Seeing their struggle, Musa, A.S., stepped forward and watered their flock for them. After helping them, he retreated under the shade of a tree and prayed humbly to Allah. "My Lord, indeed, I am in dire need of whatever good you send down to me." Shortly after, one of the women returned and said, "My father invites you, so he may reward you for watering our flock." Musa, A.S., followed her and was introduced to Prophet Shu'aib, the righteous elder of Madian. Shu'aib recognized Musa's strength, honesty, and good character, and after hearing his story, he assured him, "Do not fear. You have escaped from the wrongdoing people." Prophet Shu'aib, A.S., impressed by Musa, A.S.'s integrity, offered him marriage to one of his daughters on the condition that he work for him for 8 or 10 years. Musa, A.S., accepted the offer, starting a new life in Madian, where he lived peacefully, far from Pharaoh's tyranny. However, after completing his time, Musa, A.S., felt the calling to return to Egypt. He set out on the journey with his wife and family, unknowingly heading toward his divine mission. During his journey, on a cold night in the desert, Musa, A.S., saw a mysterious fire on Mount Tur, Sinai. Wanting to bring warmth for his family, he approached it. As he drew near, a voice called out to him from the fire, "O Musa, indeed, I am Allah, the Lord of the worlds." Allah commanded Musa, A.S., to throw his staff, and it transformed into a live serpent. His hand, when placed inside his cloak, shone brightly. These were signs of his prophethood. Allah then gave him his divine mission: "Go to Pharaoh, for indeed he has transgressed." After receiving the divine call at Mount Tur, Musa A.S. now carried the responsibility of delivering Allah's message. He was to return to Egypt and confront Pharaoh, calling him to abandon his tyranny and worship Allah alone. But Musa M. feared his past crime and his inability to speak fluently. He prayed for strength and clarity of speech, and Allah reassured him that he would not face this mission alone. His brother Harun, A.S., was granted to him as a helper. With newfound determination, Musa, A.S., set out on his journey back to Egypt, ready to fulfill his divine duty. Upon reaching Egypt, Musa, A.S., and Harun, A.S., entered Pharaoh's grand court and stood before him. With calm confidence, they conveyed Allah's message, urging Pharaoh to release Bani Israel from slavery. Pharaoh, arrogant and dismissive, mocked Musa, A.S., reminding him of his upbringing in the palace and the crime he had committed years ago. But Musa, A.S., remained firm, acknowledging his past mistake and emphasizing that Allah had now sent him as a messenger. Pharaoh was unmoved. He demanded proof of Musa as his divine mission, challenging him to demonstrate his power. In response, Musa, A.S., threw his staff to the ground, and to the astonishment of everyone present, it transformed into a mighty serpent, slithering and hissing with great force. He then placed his hand inside his cloak, and when he withdrew it, it shone with a radiant supernatural light. Pharaoh and his ministers were left stunned, yet their hearts remained hardened. Instead of accepting the truth, they accused Musa, AS, of sorcery and sought to discredit him. Pharaoh, determined to prove his superiority, announced a grand contest where Egypt's most skilled magicians would challenge Musa in a battle of power. On the appointed day, thousands gathered to witness the showdown. The magicians, confident in their abilities, threw their ropes and staffs, which appeared to turn into writhing snakes through illusions. For a brief moment, Musa AS felt a natural fear, but Allah reassured him and he cast down his staff. Unlike the false magic of the sorcerers, his staff turned into a real living serpent and devoured their illusions one by one. The crowd gasped in awe, and the magicians, recognizing that this was no trick but a divine miracle, immediately fell into prostration. They declared their belief in the Lord of Musa, AS, and Harun, AS. Pharaoh, enraged and humiliated, saw this as an act of betrayal. In his fury, he ordered their execution, but the magicians remained steadfast in their faith, embracing death rather than renouncing the truth. Despite this great sign, Pharaoh refused to relent. He continued his oppression of Bani Israel, and Allah, in response to his arrogance, sent a series of calamities upon Egypt. Torrential floods ravaged the land, destroying homes and crops. Swarms of locusts consumed what little remained. Lice infested the people, causing unbearable suffering. Frogs overran their homes, filling their food and water. Finally, the waters of the Nile turned to blood, rendering it undrinkable. Each time, Pharaoh pleaded with Musa to ask Allah to remove the affliction, promising to free Bani Israel. But as soon as the hardship was lifted, he broke his word, refusing to release them. After Pharaoh repeatedly defied Allah's warnings, Musa, AS, was commanded to lead his people out of Egypt under the cover of night. As Bani Israel made their escape, Pharaoh soon realized their departure and gathered his army to pursue them. The chase led them to the edge of the Red Sea, where Musa, AS, and his people found themselves trapped. Fear and panic spread among them as they saw Pharaoh's forces closing in. But Musa, AS, unwavering in his trust in Allah, assured them that divine help was near. Then, by Allah's command, he struck the sea with his staff, and miraculously, the waters parted, forming two massive walls with a dry path in between. Bani Israel hurried across, reaching the other side safely. When Pharaoh and his army entered the path, Allah commanded the waters to collapse upon them. Pharaoh, in his final moments, cried out, proclaiming his belief in Allah, but his repentance came too late. The mighty ruler, who had once declared himself a god, was now lifeless beneath the waters. With Pharaoh's tyranny finally brought to an end, Musa, AS, led Bani Israel toward the promised land. Their journey, however, was not without challenges. The people, despite witnessing countless miracles, struggled with faith and obedience. When Musa, AS, ascended Mount Tur to receive the divine commandments, some among them reverted to idol worship, fashioning a golden calf and bowing before it. Upon his return, Musa, AS, was devastated by their betrayal. In his anger, he rebuked them, reminding them of the countless blessings and guidance Allah had bestowed upon them. Those who repented were forgiven, but their continuous disobedience resulted in years of wandering in the desert. Musa AS spent the remainder of his life guiding his people, striving to instill faith and righteousness within them. However, he was not destined to enter the promised land. As he neared the end of his journey, he ascended a mountain, from where he was granted a glimpse of the land his people would inherit. It was there that he passed away, completing his mission as one of the greatest prophets in history. His story remains one of immense trials, unwavering faith, and divine miracles. He stood alone against the most powerful ruler of his time, yet he did not waver in his trust in Allah. Through his journey, he demonstrated the importance of patience, justice, and perseverance. His life serves as a reminder that no force, no matter how mighty, can stand against the will of Allah. The lessons of his trials continue to inspire generations, teaching that true strength lies in faith and that with Allah's guidance, even the most impossible of paths can be opened. After years of struggle, guidance, and divine miracles, Musa continued to lead Bani Israel toward the promised land. However, due to their repeated disobedience and lack of faith, Allah decreed that they would wander in the desert for 40 years. Musa, a.s., despite his wisdom and patience, witnessed his people fall into arrogance and rebellion time and again. He remained steadfast in his mission, always reminding them to worship Allah alone and be grateful for His blessings. As the years passed, Musa, a.s., neared the end of his journey. He climbed a high mountain, and from there, Allah allowed him to see the promised land from a distance. But he was not destined to enter it. On that mountain, his soul was taken by Allah in peace, marking the end of a life dedicated to faith, justice, and perseverance. The legacy of Musa lives on through the teachings of Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. His story is a reminder that no force, no matter how mighty, can stand against the will of Allah. His unwavering trust in Allah, even in the face of hardship, remains a timeless lesson for all believers.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Quranic Journey to Islam for more videos like this.